Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.
This is The Morning Drive. It is Mira Business FM with me, Tim Elliott. According to aviation data firm Cirium, somewhere in the region of 30,000 flights have been cancelled since the regional tensions and the conflict began on February the 28th, with potential losses for airlines reaching hundreds of millions of dollars, perhaps, if disruptions continue. For more on the industry impact, we're joined by Prasanth Parthasarathy, who is the head of aviation at EIRS. Prasanth, appreciate you joining us this morning.
Good morning. Doing.
We're struggling slightly with the signal, but we'll soldier on. Broadly, first of all, Prasanth, how have airspace closures across the region changed the daily operations of carriers, like Emirates, Etihad, Qatar Airways?
Well, it has caused a massive disruption in the entire Gulf region. Am I audible?
You are now. Thank you. Yeah, you are.
Okay, cool. So yes, so it has caused massive disruption to most of the carriers in the Gulf region. So they are now thinking of rerouting, finding safer corridors for their passengers to fly out. Obviously, Dubai being a hub, there are so many people stranded, tourists, etc. So the first priority for UAE is to make sure that all these stranded passengers reach back their destinations. So yes, they have figured out some safe corridors away from all the missiles flying, etc., all the drones coming in. So yes, that's the first priority for any of the airline to make sure passengers are.
Okay, well, I understand that Emirates and Etihad have begun what they call a phased resumption of services, and that uses, as you mentioned, that kind of designated safe air corridor. And is that's something like 48 flights an hour? Is that right?
Well, it's much lesser than this, and they are looking at somewhere close to about 100-150 flights in a day. Right. It's not on a per hour basis, but then it all depends. They have designated some safe time zones as well when it is relatively calmer, and then they ensure that the passenger flights can fly out. You would have also seen a video some time back where a fighter jet was basically accompanying a passenger plane till it safely leaves the local airspace. So yes, the number of flights are increasing on a day-to-day basis, but then it is relatively much lesser than what the usual capacity of 1,000+ flights just for Emirates in a day used to be.
Sure. Which routes have been most affected by the conflict, and how do airlines prioritize which services to restore first?
Okay, so. Which routes, to answer, basically there are two questions. Which routes are affected the most? I think the overall Middle East route, which goes into Europe, Southern Europe, Eastern Europe, and towards UK are one of the most affected regions, because this directly flies over Iran, Turkey, and all the affected geographical zones. As far as number of passengers are concerned, I think the highest number of stranded passengers are currently out of the Asian subcontinent, followed by UK. So I think the number of flights operated on a daily basis, there's quite a lot of flights which are going to multiple cities in India at the moment. And then the next one would be UK in the list.
Okay, so we see currently cancelled flights. There's demand for refunds and rebooking, and then of course the extra operational costs like repatriation flights and supporting passengers who are stranded. How much of a financial hit for airlines is that when you see so many flights cancelled in such a short period?
Okay, so Cancellation of flights and refunds of the ticket costs are just one of the various aspects that an airline basically looks into. Some other bigger revenue hits that an airline generally gets are because of parking charges. So if an
Right.
airline has flown out of the UAE, for example, if I take Emirates, if they have flown out of UAE and then the airspace has closed, they are unable to fly their plane back into Dubai. So one of the aircraft is stuck at an alternative hub, and they are paying parking charges over there. Plus, the crew is stationed at a different place where they are not supposed to. So relocation costs for the crew. The passengers are stranded. They need to pay for some additional airport charges because the aircraft is constantly parked at a different airport and they incur charges for parking their airport over there. These are some direct hits for the airline. Something which is not direct and it takes some a few weeks or few months for the airline to actually realize that this has also hit them would be the leasing charges, the depreciation charges, and the maintenance charges that an airline and that every aircraft would basically incur. In addition to all these charges, what I feel is that whenever an airline reroutes its services, it has to basically burn more fuel because it is going through a longer route. So the cost of fuel also increases. So in addition to basically the refunds and the cancellations or rebooking passengers, there are many more additional charges or expenses that an airline incurs. The right way of looking at this is that we are still into a conflict situation where things have not normalized yet.
Mm.
So once things normalize, this is when the actual extent of the losses or the damages that an airline has actually incurred would be visible.
And I guess on top of this, it's the the operational challenges of refunding, of rebooking, and dealing with the issues. The all of these knock-on effects, if you will.
Well, yes, operational challenges are more visible because this is right on your face. I mean, like every
Mm.
passenger basically is standing at your gate asking for their money or a revised booking or a voucher or some kind of a compensation of how to handle the situation. So I think airlines have become more vigilant of these kind of an issues. So what they have started doing is they have started building their systems in such a way that there is an automatic itinerary management system. So the system automatically tries to rebook a passenger who has been cancelled to an alternative flight.
Mm.
Of course, this applies on a in a normal scenario, but not in a conflict like scenario at the moment, where you can't really rebook a passenger to another flight when you don't really know what your schedule is going to be. So in these kind of scenarios, what airlines basically do are they try to book the stranded passengers first on repatriation flights. Passengers who are on visit visas, who are stuck in hotels, passengers who are with infants, expecting mothers. So these are the categories they would probably want to prioritize and send back to their home countries. Then comes the next level of passengers for whom they would probably try to give an alternative flight, alternative routes, or the worst case scenario, probably a voucher, which they could use once normal operations resume.
Prasanth, let me ask you about your area of expertise and specifically the role of aviation insurance and what that role is when geopolitical events force, widespread flight cancellations.
Okay, so aviation insurance in particular basically deals with a physical loss or damage to an aircraft and the passengers that are basically contracted to carry on board. So, if you look at the current geopolitical situation and the cancellation of flights that it has led to, it generally doesn't fall within the purview of an aviation insurance policy. What can be done as an alternative in this case is a travel insurance policy, which takes care of cancellations, rebookings, lost packages, etc. etc. However, having said that, a travel insurance policy has its own limitation. It's more of a benefit policy rather than a legal liability policy. And a benefit policy can be purchased by a traveling passenger at their own choice. This also comes with further limitations in such a way that it is not bound to be activated when there is a war-like situation or a political violence or a terrorism situation. I think the most important thing for an airline as well as a passenger to understand here is that we are in a conflict zone and we are currently in a hotspot. So until and unless the Civil Aviation Authority and the government actually finds a safe corridor, flights are not going to operate. It definitely creates a lot of mental distress, but then that is the situation we are into. Answering the point of whether the insurance pays for such losses, no. An aviation insurance policy doesn't generally pay for these kind of flight disruptions. This is generally borne out of the airlines books.
Okay, so when a crisis unfolds as quickly as this crisis has unfolded, how do airlines and insurers assess the risk, and how do they respond in real time?
Okay, so this is a one-off scenario where we are literally at war, even though
Mm,
it's a one-sided one. But
mm.
then, what airlines generally plan for is it's called as a business continuity plan or a BCP plan. So there are always redundancies in place where they have again and again exercised such a situation. So what we are looking at is it's probably an extreme situation. There could be some really relatively lower impact situation like an unruly passenger on board the plane. So how do we tackle this? So airlines do multiple iterations of such scenarios on how do we overcome so that the normal passengers, the other passengers, do not get affected by such scenarios even in the current scenario. So there is a business continuity plan in place, and then this is where the redundancies are helping out airlines like Emirates, Etihad, Fly Dubai, Air Arabia to ferry out passengers who are stuck. So they could not operate for the initial few days of the war, but then now they have started slowly taking the passengers back to their countries or bringing stranded passengers, residents out of UAE back to UAE. Although the numbers are pretty low, they are being more vigilant, but then it is happening.
So let's assume that the risk has been assessed. How complex is it for airlines to reroute flights if you have a situation where airspace is restricted, but of course you have to balance that with efficiency and obviously safety?
Okay, it's extremely complex in my opinion, and it's quite a laborious task for an
Mm.
airline to overcome the situation. I was just reading one of the reports a few days back that about 1.5 million passengers are currently affected because of the crisis that has erupted in Middle East. So this is not necessarily restricted to the local airlines, but then this has affected travel plans across the globe. So I mean, like, what all do they consider as an airline when you have such a scenario is basically an operational feasibility, whether for example if they are operating a particular aircraft to a particular destination, so that is taking much longer route, time and fuel in order to reach their designated place. Is that aircraft still suitable, or do we need to deploy a bigger aircraft to for that destination? Number one. Number two is again with the crisis in Middle East, the fuel prices have skyrocketed now. So we are looking at oil crossing $100 per barrel last night, and this is also going to affect the ATF, the air turbine fuel. So the moment an airline reroutes, it's flying much longer, much farther, and it's burning much more fuel. Where is it hitting? It's all hitting the books of the airline.
Hmm.
Again, rerouting comes with its own set of constraints. So I mean, like, are you rerouting from the current hotspot and then you end up into another hotspot? That should not be a crisis. So you should make sure that you are flying between two hotspots, or you are flying totally away from any of these hotspots. Next constraint would be a geographical constraint, like how hot is that location or how cold is that location. So these are some additional parameters which would probably affect the engineering aspects of an airline engine and the MROs. So yes, it is very complex. It's not just restricted to rerouting and an airspace restructuring. There are many more aspects to it at the background.
It's an incredibly intricate web that needs to be reweaved, I suppose. We have seen Gulf carriers recover quickly from disruptions in the past. I mean, the pandemic is the most recent real example, of course. So, clearly there is some resilience within the system that can be drawn upon, some experience as well.
Absolutely. So, what I feel is that the industry has learned from the past crisis. So, airlines are in a much better position today to respond in a faster, efficient, and more people-friendly way. And I feel that they are going to recover stronger than ever. Coming to UAE as such, I think we have a very strong leadership and a governance which works in tandem with all other local governments. So things are going to move faster, and I think it's just a matter of time that once this war stops, I think people will move back to normal in a much faster pace than any other place in the world. So I mean, having said that, I think UAE probably has the best infrastructure in today's time to get back to normal.
Prasanth, if disruptions last just a few weeks, and let's hope that that is the case, what does a realistic recovery timeline look like, do you think?
Well, the realistic recovery time would be much more than what the disruption time would have been. Although the airlines would start their normal operations, start ferrying as many passengers as they used to fly before the war started. However, there is going to be a deeper hit into most of the balance books. So this is something similar at what we saw during the pandemic. So it took about a year and a half to 2 years for things to return back to normal or to a pre-pandemic level. I don't anticipate that long duration now because we are much more well prepared. I think it's just a matter of time. However, this all depends on how long or how enduring is this current war. Are we finishing anytime soon? Are we going to procrastinate it for a month or so? So this is all going to definitely play a role into how faster we get back into normal scenario.
I mean, analysts are warning of potentially hundreds of millions of dollars in terms of potential losses. So, what scenarios are airlines planning for?
Well, yes, this is what the analysts started with, hundreds of millions of dollars. But then, with this war continuing beyond a week, I think we are looking at the 10th day of the war today, and it's already trickled into the billion-dollar pool. So we are now looking at billions of dollars of money that is being lost purely from an aviation industry perspective. We are not even counting any other industry over here. So loss in revenue for airlines, additional costs in terms of fuel, additional costs in terms of aircraft being parked. So that's what they say. If an aircraft doesn't fly, it's burning money. So in the current scenario, yes, the aircrafts are not flying. Uh, in my opinion, we are looking at least 100 to 200,000 dollars per day for a low cost airline per aircraft. This is the bare minimum if it's not flying. This, of course, includes many parameters like lease costs, insurance costs, maintenance costs, parking charges, fuel charges, etc., etc. But then this is a very rough estimate. However, I still feel that most of the airlines are built for disruption. So they know how to handle such scenarios, and they will come back stronger, provided this closure comes to an end at the earliest.
I guess final question for you, but events like this lead airlines to rethink or restructure their dependence on certain airspaces, maybe take a new approach to route planning in some ways. That people there is a tendency, I guess, to re-examine contingency strategies or maybe even insurance coverage in the future. That's the kind of a byproduct of upheaval like this, isn't it?
Yes, you are very right about that, and both these fields are interlinked with each other
Mm.
because they all work within a structured framework of guidelines and regulations, etc. So there are multiple organizations which basically work together with each other. So, for example, you have got your ICAO regulations, you've got your IATA regulations. These are the global organizations who then trickle down to the local level. So we have got your GCA and you have got your DCA. So these civil aviation authorities generally work with the global entities to design a framework or to design an airspace which is suitable for not just the local airlines but for all the global airlines. So the airspace, it's not a local phenomenon, it is more of a global phenomena that we are looking at. So more airlines, all the global airlines use a particular country's airspace. So they have to comply with the local regulations, and the local guys have to be in cooperation with the global airlines that are flying through. So, yes, basically, people are looking at these scenarios at the moment, and I don't see much of a restructuring when it comes to the airspace because there were few countries which were already restricted in the past, also even before the war had started, and they will continue to be in the same way. However, the Gulf countries like the UAE, Doha, UAE, Qatar, Saudi, Bahrain, Kuwait, these are quite resilient countries, and they have not technically gone out to the war, so they are just defending their own territories at the moment. So I think it's just a matter of time. Once the war comes to a stop, I think the old airspace mapping, old airspace networking would tend to continue. And from an insurance perspective, lastly, I would probably like to answer that
Mm.
in much more depth. Insurance clauses have something called as a geographical limitation clause or a territorial limitation clause already in place. So across the globe, they have already identified countries which are basically defined as the hotspots. They encourage their insureds not to fly to these hotspots. However, insurers are always willing to support their insureds in whatever way they can. So they provide all the risk mitigation methodologies that you should not go more than 4 hours into a hotspot. You should let us know before you go so that we do our due diligence of how the situation is at this point of time, etc., etc. So from a technical clause perspective, I don't see much of a change if the war comes to an end anytime soon, and if they feel and perceive that this is not going to escalate any further in the future and this has come to a dead end now. So, from an insurance perspective, I think things will get back to normal at the earliest.
Prasanth Pathsati is the head of aviation at the insurance broking and risk management firm EIRS. Appreciate your thoughts this morning, Prasanth. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Jen.
This is Mira Business FM.
Mira Business FM. The sound of success. Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.
Mira Business FM, The Morning Drive, and a warm welcome back to AJ Menon, who is the CEO of Lux Vista Real Estate. Couple of things, actually, I have to not bring you to account for, but I didn't realise it was your birthday, first of all. You kept that quiet. So happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Very nice to see you. And you're just back from vacation as well. So you walked in and I thought, there's a man that looks like he's been reclining for a little while. He looks a bit, what's the word they use these days? Chilled, I think is the word. You're looking well, AJ. Nice to see you.
Thank you very much indeed. Yeah.
Just back in Dubai on a repatriation flight, no less, as well.
Correct.
Yeah. So you're on holiday and celebrating your birthday. Your birthday's February the 28th?
28th. That's why the fireworks were arranged.
Oh, man. That's one way of looking at it, I suppose. And then, of course, you're away for a while, and then you're trying to get back. And it wasn't that difficult, I gather.
Not at all, because and that is why I love this place, because I went on 27th.
Right.
Everything was very, very ordinary.
Yeah,
28th is when it all started. And I was scheduled to fly back on the 3rd.
Yeah.
And on 1st, 2nd, obviously, they canceled the flights. And they were constantly in touch with us. We were supposed to check out on the 3rd. The government, the company, airline company paid for that extra stay with the food. And they were repatriating UAE nationals, gold card holders, residents in that order. Okay. It was not made public, but the idea is you could just go to the airport, and if you are in those categories, they will let you in.
Okay.
So I happen to have a golden card, I was on the priority list, and we flew back exactly on the scheduled date, the 3rd, and I was back in Dubai on the 4th. And I could have gone to any country in the world. I could have gone to India. I didn't even bother to do that because I feel perfectly safe in Dubai.
Well, that's what's interesting, actually, is that, I know that you've lived in Dubai a long time. You lived in the UAE a long time, and you were kind of, from what I can read between the lines here, you were kind of itching to get back.
100%.
Yeah.
There is no doubt and this is what many people outside the country do not understand. And they think that we are paid to do this. You are in the media. Did anybody pay you to say good things about UAE?
No, but I'm open to offers. That's for sure. I can do with some more cash. No, you start to see that a lot on social media, actually, and people will start to say, look, the reason people are positive is trust in leadership, trust in government, and, you're used to the fact that actually here things work in a pretty methodical way, and you've seen the government step up, and I think that's all fair. I can understand why people look in and think, oh, is that really the case? But the simple fact is it is the case. You're not paid to be here and to say things. You're paid because you have an opinion on real estate, which we will get to. I'm paid to talk to people about the things that we're trying to do as a radio station. That's simply what it is. And that there is no agenda other than, and I think this is really apparent, you try to make the best of a situation. There is perhaps a more positive attitude, and that's certainly encouraged. But I'm not sure that's a bad thing.
Definitely not.
It's a good thing.
And I don't even understand why media tries to sensationalize all this. The only people who were trying to get out were the tourists who came in for a vacation and who were stranded in the airport.
True.
No resident who has got their roots here is trying to go out from this country.
No, I got to be honest with you. I don't know anybody that's left because of the situation. I genuinely don't. I was trying to think the other day. I was talking to my father. He says, what's it like? And, because he's seeing the other side. He's in the UK. And he's been here, so he's aware of how, the UAE is and he's enjoyed his time here. And I said, well, I can't think of anybody that's leaving, Dad. I just, no, there isn't anybody.
Try hard.
Oh, okay.
Try hard. You might find one or two.
I'm racking my brain. It's not what it seems from the outside. Let's talk about real estate a little bit, though, because this is obviously your bread and butter these days, if you like. You have a real estate agency. I don't want to ask you to get the crystal ball out because I do that far too much. Let's leave that gathering dust in the corner for today.
I had bought the crystal ball with me. Do you don't want it? Okay.
Not now. Let's go bowling later. But the future for Dubai real estate, because we're at this kind of situation where we're 10 days into a conflict. Obviously, people are taking a view that, it's just a holding pattern, really, for people, isn't it?
Correct.
See,
the thing is, everything is not hunky-dory. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
The sales will definitely slow down. It has slowed down in March.
Right.
Quite natural. It's a knee-jerk reaction. Normal people will wait to around 2 to 4 weeks. It's a wait-and-watch situation at the moment. This is what is currently happening. But then if you ask me, which other place is safe? Forget Dubai real estate, forget Dubai. People had started advertising about Cyprus, Azerbaijan, and Singapore. Cyprus was bombed a couple of days back. Azerbaijan also had an attack. There goes that market. Singapore, it's only a matter of time when China is getting into Taiwan. There goes that sweet spot as well. And Singapore is not accessible for many people. You're talking about almost about 64 to 65% stamp duty for foreign buyers. So that's it. And then again, we're back to Dubai. Right? Dubai will have two impact. One is the short-term impact. Okay, let's get into the short-term impact.
Yeah.
It will slow down for a while, 1 month to 2 months. But again, what is the best case scenario? What is the worst case scenario? Best case scenario is a ceasefire by Eid. And worst case scenario is the end.
Okay.
Right. That is the worst case scenario. That can happen.
You're a ray of light.
Yeah, I know. But now let's get to the correct point. But again, everybody knows what's happening. So people will wait. Smart investors will not sell anything. Smart investors will buy, but very carefully. They will still buy. And what is also happening is there's a lot of agencies that will go away. A lot of part-time influencers turned brokers will go away. It will be more like a cleansing ritual sort of thing.
Yeah, I can understand that. Okay.
Off-planned launches will slow down, which is actually a welcome break.
With the number of launches, what was it? It wasn't every 13 minutes. That would be ridiculous. But there were a couple of launches.
14 hours or something like that. Every 14 hours kind of thing.
That's right.
Yeah. So these things will slow down a little bit. There will still be one or two, few panic sellers. But the number of buyers waiting with cash is way more than the number of people who are actually willing to sell. I have not had anybody who just called me and said, I want to sell my property. But after every wave of new attacks, I get calls, do we have any distressed deals? I said, I just put 4 of them yesterday online. So you are in queue.
Really?
Yeah, it's a truth.
Wow.
People, see, they have seen everything. They've seen the Dubai recovery, post the financial crisis, 2014. They've seen post-COVID. No, they've been here. They've seen what is happening here. And nobody who's smart, if you had a property, will you sell now?
No.
I wouldn't sell.
No.
Yeah. See, the thing is, again, cash transactions, that will happen a lot now. Because people are sitting with the cash. Because you know why? Because they were expecting this kind of a crash because many rating agencies are saying, oh, there will be a correction. This is the correction. This is the right time. If something happens, this is the right time. But what I see is you might find some developers offering some sort of discounts or better payment plans for the already released inventory, launch projects.
Okay, just as
an incentive, as an encouragement to sell out there. Right. But what they can do is they can definitely hold on to their future launches.
Okay. What about long-term impacts, though? That's now.
That is now. Long-term impact is definitely, again, see, the reputation of Dubai as a safe haven is still solid. That is also the reason why, like we discussed earlier, many people are defending Dubai, even when a lot of publications, respected publications and journalists from outside the country is actually saying negative things about it. Everybody has their own agenda. See, the thing is, what they say, especially in the UK, they've been really negative towards Dubai. Why are they doing it? They're doing it because they've lost a lot of capital to Dubai. They want to retain that capital back in the UK.
This is true. It's also a cultural mentality. If you're from the UK, if you're honest, you'll agree. We build people up, and then we like to chip away and knock them down. That's what it is. You don't become too big for your boots. That's how it's seen there. That's British mentality. People will probably shout at me for that, but bring it on. So it's fine.
It's the same thing with India as well. I've seen, because Indian markets like Mumbai and Gurgaon, they're doing quite well, and they actually are, because 22% of the buyers in Dubai are from India. These are clients they missed out. So they want to retain that capital there. They're trying their best to say negative things about Dubai, because see, this is when a lot of emotions happen. So, and it's very easy to get into a person if he's emotionally kind of unstable at the moment.
Yeah.
It's a knee-jerk reaction. Yeah. So they are trying to capitalize this thing and then see what they can do. Because if Dubai was at its prime, these people don't even have a fighting chance.
So the fundamentals really haven't changed, have they?
It has not changed at all. And what again happened, like what we said, the proactive leadership is actually proving even better, because that is the reason why all these people, the general actual resident of Dubai is defending these kind of negative comments on the social media, because they already trust the leadership and the way, especially after COVID thing. But now this is even taken to a different level. So now what else can they do? This is a war zone, and every missile has been intercepted. That means they have the best defense system in the world.
True.
So it has been tested to the core. There is no more further test on Dubai or UAE as a country. And is the average person safe on a normal day? Yes. Are they safe during wartime? Yes. What else can go wrong?
I'm trying to think of a counter-argument, and I'm stuck. So I'm going to give you the win on that one. But you are right. I mean, the safe haven reputation has been knocked externally to some extent. That much is clear. But here, I don't feel as though that reputation's been knocked.
And what reputation are these people talking about? If by going by the same token, after 9/11, America should never have recovered. After World War, London and Europe should never have recovered. Everybody came from a war.
It's a good point, actually. It does depend on your standard, doesn't it? I suppose where that sits. What's your advice to people? Because you're talking to people who buy properties, who are actively looking at the moment, whether it's distressed or not. What are you telling people?
See, as a real estate person, if I'm as a real estate professional, my thing is I am secure even if they buy or sell. But as a consultant, I tell my clients, hold on to your portfolio. Do not sell. There is no need to sell because the fundamentals are still strong. Again, what you should be doing is basically you should be looking to invest now, because most people will not invest now. So you can get the best deals out of government-backed developers. Buying offline is the best game, because even there is nothing to hit at the moment, even if a missile, because it's still on paper. And by the time your unit comes up in the next 2 to 3 years, things are all back to normal. So that is a good way to think about it. And then again, what else? What are the alternatives to invest? See, it's immediately after a war, what normally happens? Your stock market is crashed. Your crypto is done and dusted. Right? And then what you have is oil is as good as a casino. Just go to the casino and gamble away. Then otherwise you invest in oil. It can go up, go down, whatever happens. Then you have cash. A recession is imminent. Inflation, we're looking at inflation. Your cash is dead. It's devalued. Plus, you could also get cash stuck in your ATMs, because when the data centers got hit, many people could not use their bank apps to move the money around. Again, what else are the other two options? You have to go for real hard assets. That is either your gold and silver or real estate. Gold is always a safe haven. You should always have some portion of your portfolio in gold. But again, with gold, there is no yield at all. It's a safe haven. That's it. Right? If you are for the long term, definitely keep gold. No doubt at all. But real estate is something which will keep growing. Once ready, it will start giving you yields. And it is also a perfect way to hedge your investments.
So let me just paraphrase what you've said there. You are bullish going forward.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. I wrote a number of questions down that I wanted to put to you very directly today. The first thing was, naturally there is some sensitivity because of, this is about people and, sentiment and how we feel and, how you react in an adverse situation. But what parts of the real estate market do you think might be the most sensitive?
Definitely, especially in Dubai, there's a lot of, it was always an imminent threat because there's a lot of average developers giving average products in not so great locations. Right? They will definitely be affected. And if you're looking at the ready ones now, which is just getting handed over now, that is going to be a little of a problem because if people are not coming in, they will have units. If they bought it just to let it out on a short-term rental, they will be affected because tourists is definitely not coming in because the flights are not being operated. And it will also take some time for people to gather courage and come to Dubai.
There are going to be delays, aren't there? There is a lag effect.
That is correct, yes. So these people will definitely be affected. So in case something happens or some kind of a distress deal happens, this is the area where you should be looking at. Again, who will buy these units? These will be obviously owned by international investors. And this will be bought by people living in Dubai who are still confident about the market. So people with sharks, I would say, with money in hand, cash in hand, they are looking out for these opportunities. I know a lot of people who are looking at, myself, I am also looking out for these kind of opportunities. So, end of the day, we are investors.
Look, that anecdotally, we've been talking about that for the last 10 days, really. When it comes to rents, to prices, to volumes, realistically, honestly, what's likely?
It will go down for the short term. Definitely, we're looking at. So this is the right time to rent. If you're looking for rent, you can negotiate harder. If you're looking for a short stay or instead of a normal Airbnb thing, or a holiday home rental, this is the time you can actually get much better deals. The sellers, I would not ask them to sell at all. Hold on, because unless you have to make that payment and you don't have that money. If you think that you can hold on to your portfolio, please hold on. Do not make this kind of impulsive judgments.
Okay, and long term, you don't feel as though there's any drastic change to the kind of the long term story, do you?
Definitely not. You just when you're looking at long term, we're looking at this war is not regional anymore. This war is going to affect everybody in the world. It's already started affecting a lot of people. We're looking at oil prices through the charts. Even in India, the gas prices in one day increased by 70 rupees. That is actually quite a lot in one day. So people have started getting the effect all over the world. And a recession to one place is not limited to only that place. It is going to trickle down to all the countries. So then even if you're looking at the long-term recovery has to be uniformly in all the places, or it will stay low in all the places. Even in that conditions, definitely the conditions in Dubai would still be better than most of the places, as we know.
If you're in the market now, and let's say sentiment dips for a few months, maybe 6, maybe 12 months, which is a reasonable assessment. If you're in the market, you need to be saying to yourself, can I hold? And am I comfortable with holding? The point is to just not panic and just be comfortable with where you are. If you're in that situation, that's a good situation.
That is correct. See, again, it all depends on your personal situation. The thing is, are you comfortable? Have you already paid that mortgage? Or even if you are on a mortgage, can you cover that EMI with the limited rentals that you're getting? I still say that even at a lower end of the rental value, you are only paying a mortgage for probably a 50 or a 40% of the remainder of the payment at a 4% interest. Your rental will definitely cover that part. So if you are going on a net-to-net basis, you should be pretty better off. Even in that conditions, do not sell. But in case, if you cannot cover your mortgage and you think you are in a situation, obviously that is a matter that you have to evaluate yourself. And then if that is the case, then put it up for sale. But expect real negotiations to happen. You are not going to get your dream price. You will definitely be selling at a distress.
Okay. and ask yourself, is this, the usual questions? And I think it's worth kind of reminding ourselves of things like, is this a home? Is this a flip? Is this a long-term income play? Does my strategy match the risk? All the questions that you should usually ask, it will still apply.
Definitely. So fundamentals have never changed.
Yeah.
So fundamentals of any investment, any real estate investment has never changed in this thing. Whichever country you are always buying a property or properties for a certain purpose. Definitely one is a primary residence. The other is basically you are looking at to sell it at a profit, or you're going to rent it out. You are still trying to generate money out of that investment. Any investment is for returns.
I think I know what you're going to answer the next question with. I suppose this is the last question. We've only got a couple of minutes left, unfortunately. But listening to what you were saying earlier about Dubai as a safe haven and the attitude from outside and that discussion we had, an observation for you really, AJ. Dubai often benefits from regional stress, that kind of adverse reaction thing. Is there such a thing as, I don't know if I want to call it the safe haven effect, but is that kind of inherent to not just Dubai? I mean, I think it's the UAE. I think regionally it applies to some degree as well. But is that a thing?
Definitely, because okay, let me rephrase.
I thought that's what you said.
Let me rephrase it in a different way.
You're probably more eloquent than me, so I'll let you do it.
No, so I don't really didn't want to name the countries, but of course I have to. A place like a Lebanon being hit now very, very badly.
Yes.
A place like Jordan. These places. Now, where do you think that these people are going to go? You are going to choose the lesser of the two evils? And we can safely say that even if you remove that safe haven status from Dubai, it is definitely the lesser of the two evils when you compare to all these countries?
I see where you're going with that. I can understand your thinking. Yeah. No, it does make sense. So, I mean, your answer is yes, isn't it?
We've seen this before. We'll see this. We'll continue to see this.
Yeah.
Like they say, past performance is not a future indicator, but still, I have seen it 3 times. I don't think it will be any different this time also.
Probably not. No, probably not. It's been an interesting discussion, and I appreciate seeing you back. Are you around for a while now?
Yeah.
You are. Okay, so we'll see you next Tuesday. AJ Menon is the CEO of Lux Vista Real Estate, based here in Dubai. And another year older and wiser as well. But I'm not even going to ask how many years that is. AJ, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Appreciate you coming in. This is Mira Business FM.
Mira Business FM, where business comes to talk. Mira Business FM. The sound of success.
It's the morning drive with me, Tim Elliott. Now, Dubai is tightening safety rules across the city. We have a new public safety law issued by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, and it sets stricter standards for venues, for buildings, for products, public spaces. There are fines up to a couple of million dirhams for repeat violations, potentially. Takes effect in June this year. Now, for businesses, for event organisers, for property managers, it means, or could mean, new compliance requirements, safety plans, inspections, potential liability if standards are not met. So, this week's edition of The Fine Print, that's the topic. Raymond Kiswani is a partner at Davidson & Co., here to break down what it means for businesses, what it means for us all, really. Raymond, nice to see you.
Very nice to be here back in the studio again.
Good to have you here. It was Zoom last week, and we've got the pleasure of your company today.
Absolutely.
This is a big one. This is quite a change. So I thought what we could do is look at the background, first of all. This is a legislative update that replaces a 23-year-old local order on public health, community safety. So take us through the shift from that order. I can't believe 2003 is 23 years ago, first of all, to where we are in 2026.
I know. Isn't it crazy when somebody says 20 years ago and you're like, oh, so that was some 1990, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, that was...
No, it's like, I look at policemen, they're getting younger. That's a sign.
Yeah. That's when I stopped following professional sports, is when I got older than the players that are retiring, I think.
I'm so with you.
That's when I stopped. But it's exactly what you said. I mean, the main goal is to move public safety legislation from this sort of patchwork, more reactive model into a concise, clear, modern, citywide legal framework.
Yeah.
So the intent of the law, it's to ensure high safety standards for individuals, properties. It's to support sustainable development, reduce injuries, fatalities, property damage, ensure that the safety of the public and public services and products in the entirety of the market, and to establish preventative standards across the entirety of Dubai. So, if we were to look at what this is doing, I would say it's prevent harm before it happens in the first place. Secondly, it's to assign responsibility more clearly. I would say it also standardizes expectations across various sectors where the public is exposed to risk. And lastly, it makes enforcement clearer and more credible. So, why does this matter to a place like Dubai? Well, I mean, the economy is built around things like real estate, hospitality, tourism, leisure, retail, logistics, airlines, all these things that we've been very much hearing about in the news for the past week. And those events that are public facing, in that kind of environment, public safety is not just a moral or a regulatory issue. It's very much an economic infrastructure issue. I mean, if we just have a consideration of what happened to the Fairmont, where it was hit with a bit of debris, I mean, we all saw the headlines and all it, but it was back in full service within a day. So, I mean, that economic infrastructure is there, and to protect it, basically. I'd say another key point here is that the law is broader than just sort of a basic fire and life safety kind of compliance. Yes, there is about fire safety equipment, evacuation measures are all part of it, but it covers things like lighting, ventilation, overcrowding, hearing hazards, product safety, building maintenance. So it is so comprehensive and so wide-ranging. And again, it's taking this kind of patchwork safety legislation and combining it into one comprehensive modern law.
It's a modern framework, isn't it? Really, it's quite a high-tech framework as well. So it goes from everything, as you say, it's kind of all-encompassing. It could be a swimming pool. It could be a global event. It covers so much. We'll try and get into some of the details. But what sectors are going to feel the biggest impact from the legislation, do you think?
It's a big one. I mean, I think really kind of taking a step back, it's the sectors that have the highest public interface and the highest concentration for physical risk.
Right.
So I would say at the top of that list is your hospitality, leisure, entertainment, and events, because the law specifically addresses venues and events and sets requirements around equipment standards, lighting, ventilation, safe entry and exits, occupancy limits to prevent overcrowding, noise controls. It also specifically requires firefighting equipment, emergency evacuation measures, first aid, trained safety supervisors, alarm systems, safety signage, and it goes on and on, right? So so it means places like hotels, restaurants, beach clubs, malls, like we're in right now, cinemas, exhibition venues, sports venues, all of those are going to have to pay close attention to this law. You know, really any business that is inviting the public into a controlled environment will be looking at this law and they should be asking, do our physical layouts, our staff training, our emergency procedures, operation manuals actually meet the standard that the law is pointing forward? And another one that might be a bit overlooked, I think, is your real estate and property management, because again, the law sets standards and requirements for relating to maintenance activities for inhabited buildings and homes, as well as things like electrical devices and equipment. So businesses such as developers, owners associations, community managers, property managers, landlords, you know, all of those with public facing or mixed use assets are going to be affected. So it's very wide in the sectors that it reaches, and I think really everybody needs to pay close attention to it.
I've looked through lots of it and spent some time last night, and your point about it being wide-ranging is a good one. So I picked a few things out, and I'm hoping I can kind of throw a few things at you.
Yeah.
And I want to start with the leisure sector, because that was kind of the standout sector, if you like, that immediately kind of jumps off the page. But how will new things like the crowd control measures, these are mandatory now, change the way, you know, high density areas like, I don't know, the malls or maybe Global Village, or how will it change the way they manage peak capacity at times like, you know, the Eid holiday, for example? Because there's a very real effect there, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, it's really having to sort of, the law requires a preventative approach rather than a reactive approach.
Right.
So it is, you know, with those types of events, it is planning for them ahead of time. You know, noticing that, yes, there is going to be a higher volume during, for example, an Eid holiday or New Year's Eve or a special sale or whatever it may be, and making sure that you have the technology and the wherewithal to be able to understand the occupancy that you are allowed to have and what is the maximum to that. How are you going to ensure that you prevent overcrowding? How are you going to train your staff to be able to keep count and detect when things are getting overcrowded? What do you do when you reach that capacity to prevent, for example, you know, a rush to the door type event? So it is really a multi-layered, multi-step, multi-organizational method that you have to look at. So I mean, what I would say is businesses generally should identify whether they fall within those higher risk categories under the law. Again, venues, events, public spaces, even residential and mixed use buildings, where you have that, where you are involved in high visitor turnover and crowd density, then they really need to compare their current procedures against the themes and the expectations that the law has. Things about entry and exits, how is that managed, how is that controlled, how is that signaged, crowd management, your ventilation, your alarm systems, your trained safety personnel, and your emergency evacuation readiness. You know, those are going to be really key to that. And there's also, in terms of governance, how do you make sure that you're not just doing a tick box approach in terms of compliance, but everybody knows who is responsible for what, rather than sort of just I assume somebody else is responsible for this, right? So I mean that's where I think the law is doing a great deal to change what is the current status quo.
Okay, you mentioned something. Noise levels are now going to be, they're going to be strict limits. There's going to be a legal requirement that there is a strict limit. So we have lots of big beach clubs, lots of concerts, you know, there are plenty of events. So that means introducing a way of measuring auditory levels as well. So we're going to be seeing some venues, I guess, getting up to date with, I don't know, soundproofing, sound damping technology. There's all sorts of things. I think the point is that you now have to consider under this new law. Simple as that.
Exactly.
So the law, another thing that I was reading last night, the law mandates trained safety supervisors for public venues. So you would kind of take from that there's going to be some kind of certification process, maybe a new standardized process that the municipality may introduce at some point. There's a lot more to come. One thing I wanted to talk to you, and this will be, you know, in mind, I suppose, for lots of people, is swimming pools, beaches. That's something that the law covers. And it's about the legal liability. Does it shift legal liability from a management company, in the case of a swimming pool, for example, to an individual property owner if a pool isn't compliant after this comes in June? Because that's something that I was
that's a really good question. Because, you know, I think a lot of people don't really understand how kind of ownership structures work a lot of times, because the pool in a hotel could be, you have the hotel that owns it, but you might have a separate company that maintains it, a separate company that is operating it, a separate company that is providing the lifeguards.
The lifeguards, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So you know, and where there is that shortcoming, it used to be that every party would point to the other, because a lot of them would have what's called sort of knock-on-knock indemnity clauses, or, you know, yes, we own the pool, but we have this management company that's operating it, so they're the ones responsible. The management company says, well, we only manage it, we don't provide safety. So the law is being very specific that you know, where there is this this kind of ownership structure, we need to have everybody be very clearly responsible when it comes to shortfalls. So you don't have this finger pointing event, or beforehand, you don't have this assumption of, well, I'm not responsible for the pool, they are, and they're thinking the other way around. And so it is no, you know, let us all have that preventative measure to begin with, and be very clear in where the responsibility falls.
Okay. I mean, it applies to so many people. A lot of people living in compounds, there's a swimming pool there. Where's the responsibility? Where does liability lie? So hopefully there'll be some clarity with this law over something like that. I'm hopeful that there are no issues, of course. Another aspect of the law that kind of jumped out to me was the focus on safety during maintenance work in buildings that are occupied. Maintenance is an ongoing issue for many people, of course, but that's a personal thing. What specific electrical or structural safety standards do service providers, should they be providing? should they demonstrate that they're providing before they enter the home of a residence?
Yeah, I mean, they haven't gotten into that level of
That's sort of granular details,
specifics,
aren't they?
but yeah, I mean, there is the kind of, it is not giving kind of those specific details, but it is assuming that there's going to be notions before you even start, that you think about your business and what it is that you're about to do, that you create a safety protocol before you do that.
Right. Okay.
And then once you get started, that you have trained your staff, you have trained your protocols, you have trained your documentation in order to be able to provide that in a safe environment for both the maintenance workers as well as the people that are inhabiting the place while it is being maintained, right? So
written code, if there isn't one in place, and if there is one in place, an updated structured code.
Exactly. And there's a huge deal within the law about consistent training and skill upgrade and sort of running through various scenarios, so that it is not just a guideline is written and put in somebody's drawer and we have this guideline. It is no, actually, let's run through these drills, let's run through these protocols and make sure that they are up to date and we are keeping with it.
Gotcha. Okay, so if you're a business and you need to start preparing for this, what are the key kind of compliance steps that you should be looking at putting into place ahead of June?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think it's really important to not sort of think about it as this is a June 2026 problem, and really think about it as you want to get ahead of this before June, because let's not wait for that to happen before you start finding out that you have to play catch up.
Do it now.
So yeah, exactly. If I were advising business today, I would say, break this time into sort of three phases. The first phase is to identify and to diagnose what you currently have. Map the parts of the business that are likely to fall within the law's higher risk areas. So your venues, your public access areas, your building operations, events, entertainment, etc. Your pool and beach, the electrical equipment. Those are all going to be higher risk. So then do a gap analysis against the themes expressly mentioned in the law to identify that. The second phase would be to remedy and to document what you've done. So update the procedures, assign ownership, retrain your staff, review signage, test the alarms, test the systems, verify the first aid arrangements that you have, confirm all of that. And businesses should also review contracts with operators and vendors and contractors to make sure responsibility is very clearly allocated and backed by practical reporting obligations. So that would be your kind of your second one. And then the third phase would be an audit. Run continuous drills, conduct inspections, ask external legal counsel or a compliance specialist or health and safety consultants to pressure test the system and make sure that it is up to speed. Because the question is not whether the policy manual just looks good. It's a question of whether the business can actually withstand scrutiny by an inspector if a complaint or an incident occurs. So those are a few things that I think you should do before June. I mean, we don't have that much time before June, frankly. So go through those three phases, and I think that you'd be in a much better position for when this law actually comes into effect.
Okay. The other thing that struck me is, we talked a little bit about events, and we host some pretty big events. There are a number of fair-sized venues here now, but it means changes to safety procedures, doesn't it? Potentially as well, I guess. What kinds of, that's something that, event organizers or venue operators need to be thinking about right now, need to be thinking about constantly, of course, as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, those bigger arenas, for example, the Coca-Cola Arena or Stadium, etc. Those are really, I mean, you can literally have thousands upon thousands of people in there at once. So it is ensuring. I mean, it doesn't get any higher risk than that, right? In terms of overcrowding. So making sure that your ticket sales are clear in terms of how much occupancy you can have for a particular event. Making sure that your entrance and your exits are clearly signed and operated. What is your fire equipment and your fire safety standards are like? How many personnel do you need to have in terms of staff during an event, right? To have a decent security to population ratio, making sure that they are trained and they know what to do in case of X emergency or that emergency. So it is a continuous event. It's not one of those where it's a one and done. It is an ongoing obligation for each time, because you can easily have two very different events happening at Coca-Cola Arena, a basketball game or a concert or another show, and each of them is going to have a different crowd size, a different entrance and exits, and so that will dictate how many staff you need to have, what sort of alarm bells you do, and what kind of training that you do before that event. So it is plan. As they sort of say, it's have a plan for a backup plan for a backup plan.
It's so interesting, this law, because I looked at it and I thought, a public safety law, it'd be great to talk to Raymond about that. Then I looked at the law and I thought, well, this is going to take a while, because it is so wide-ranging. There's a couple of things that I wanted to add as well. I have a huge list of stuff. The law strictly prohibits tampering with city infrastructure or disposing of hazardous materials in regular waste as well. So it's very, very extensive. I just wonder if we're going to see some kind of new certified waste provider or something, so that if you've got anything toxic you need to get rid of, there's a way of doing that. So there's all kinds of lots of things that need to be implemented from the law, or which we will probably see implemented.
I think it's extremely interesting, and it's again, one of those really kind of changing the traditional thought process and the traditional definitional segments, right? When I think for a very long time we always sort of thought health and safety. We thought about fires, earthquakes, entrance and exits, etc. Right?
Pretty straightforward.
But I mean, here you have a really interesting law that is in 2026, and how the world has changed and how Dubai has changed over the past 20 years, where we are thinking about sustainable development as a health and safety protocol.
That's a good point.
Right? So when we're talking about disposing of hazardous waste, that's no longer sort of an environmental issue or sort of its own separate law. No, we're encompassing that within health and safety because, disposing of hazardous waste in a typical landfill is going to be a hazard to our health and safety. So it's really interesting as to how the thought process has worked and how it is developed and reshaped our thinking. And I think it's really a testament to how Dubai is so ahead of the game a lot of times.
It codifies sustainable development in some areas, doesn't it? That's really interesting. I hadn't thought of it in that way. Fines potentially, repeat violation, something like 2 million dirhams, and you would imagine enforcement is going to be strict.
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't put it at all past it. Yes, so I mean, enforcement is going to be serious. Businesses should assume that the authorities intend for this law to have a very practical bite from day one. So that's where I'm sort of saying, don't wait for June to start having a think about it. the framework itself points to that direction. I think violations can attract fines from anywhere from 500 dirhams all the way up to the millions. And repeated offenses within 1 year can be doubled up to 2 million dirhams. So, and on top of that, not only just the financial fines, but Dubai municipality and other relevant authorities have enforcement powers to document violations, to issue reports, and to even involve the police where necessary. So this is not just kind of a symbolic, hopeful drafting. There is really enforcement architecture built into the law itself. And I think the enforcement is going to be strict because the law is tied to public safety. This is not just an administrative housekeeping effect. Regulators tend to take a very hard line when it comes to public safety. And the law is very clearly aligned with Dubai's broader positioning as kind of a highly regulated, internationally trusted place to live, work, invest, and host events. So that kind of environment is going to have the enforcement part of it built in. So and really the law itself is very express in saying that that if you are fined, you have a very express written appeal process. You have 10 working days, and the decision is going to be in 30 days, and that's final. So it is a very strict enforcement. It is built into it, and it is redefining what public safety is.
It is, and it's categorical, isn't it? There's also the aspects of the timing of this as well. I mean, clearly, legislation like this takes some time to bring together, to draft. But it's this timing when, public safety is so much, it's so in the limelight when you consider what's going on around the region, of course. That's also an interesting point. And I think part of the benefit of that is the focus on, well, this is happening, you need to be thinking about this, and, hasten processes as you're, advising.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're not living in a bubble. To be clear, this law has been in the draft for significantly...
clearly for some time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It is being rolled out, obviously, now. It will come into effect in June. And we are living for the past week under these international events where, for lack of a better word, it is a war zone. I know that Washington D.C. has a bit of an issue in terms of defining it that way, but when there is 1,000+ missiles and drones being shot over, for lack of a better word, that is a war zone. But it's more just about the way that Dubai has been for the entirety of the time that we have seen it, really, where even in events such as the fire that happened years ago, I think it was about 10 years ago, in the address on New Year's Eve.
I remember
that completely redrafted and rechanged the entirety of fire prevention and the entirety of facades across all buildings in Dubai. So Dubai is one of these places where there's a constant wanting to move forward, right? So where something, it's either aimed at preventing something from happening, or when one thing happens, we take a very clear learning lesson from it and we change it. And so that's where I think that this law kind of comes in about, public safety is not just another tick box approach.
Do you know the other side that's interesting as well? I've talked to lots of legal experts, including yourself, over the last 5 or 6 years or so. And what has always struck me is the pace at which the legal system, for want of a better word, changes, the dynamism in the sector and the rate at which decisions are made that, well, this law needs redrafting, we are living in a more modern age, whatever the aspects of the law need to be updated to are updated, and it's done quickly. And it's very hard to get across just how dynamic a sector it is, I think. But you lived through it, obviously.
Absolutely. I mean, again, I've been here for 12 years, and I think, if you speak with any any sort of lawyer or legislator in other jurisdictions, be it anywhere in Europe, frankly, the U.S., Canada, etc. The rate that is, there's a lot more talk than there is actual action. You're talking about case law and laws that have been on the books for hundreds of years sometimes, and the updates are so minuscule, and so there's always a lag time that law has to try to meet up with technology, with the pace of how humans are changing, because we as humans evolve a lot quicker than the law, and so law is always trying to play catch up. But here, that catch up is significantly closer than anywhere else, frankly. I still remember when I first came out here, pretty much any conference that I would go to, there was always a comparison of how Singapore was acting, because Singapore was the one that was sort of well ahead of the game in terms of technology and law and etc. And Singapore, as a jurisdiction, is a much simpler jurisdiction, frankly, because it is really a city-state.
It's tiny compared.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
It's tiny in terms of its population, and they don't have the kind of dynamics. Whereas the UAE is a very, very complicated country.
Mm-hmm.
It's made up of different emirates, each one with its own legal jurisdiction, with its own courts, with its own laws. There's a federal system. There's free zones, and yet now, 12 years ahead, I'm seeing people consistently wanting to come to Dubai from Singapore or from Hong Kong, rather than being there. So it just goes as a testament to show how this place is continuously evolving, and how the rate of the legal sector and laws that are being drafted and enacted are really forward thinking rather than reactive. I mean, as I know this is a little bit off topic, but if there was ever a testament to what has been happening over the past week, I mean, my sort of gauge to all this is the type of clients that are coming to us over the past week. Yes, there have been people asking questions to things related to delays, force majeure, etc. But we have gotten instructions on corporate restructurings, on investments, on going ahead with opening up a business here. So, and I can't think of another example where there's literally thousands of missiles being launched and people are thinking about investments and corporate openings. So, I think that that's all really a testament to how the law is being enacted in a way and is backed up by a government that is helping businesses.
It's interesting you say that. And it's slightly off topic, but I think you get away with that in the situation that we're in now, to be fair. But it's a good thing to hear. And it's been kind of echoed through the week. And I end up going back to this. Anybody watching this from abroad will be, you're paid to say that. You're just actors, it's this, it's that. But it is not the case.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, I have seen it make its way around, not just Instagram or Facebook or whatever, but even on very reputable news organizations, including ones like the BBC, where there is this attempt in a numerous amount of videos of trying to tie the UAE advertiser license that we talked about a few weeks back,
right.
And trying to tie that and sort of make it that that's the reason why so many people seem to be positive online in Dubai and the UAE, because they have to have a license as an influencer. So that's why all these influencers are so positive about what is happening here currently. I think number one, it is a fundamental misunderstanding of how the advertiser license works in the first place, because as we talked about, it doesn't apply to influencers. It applies to anybody that is doing third-party promotion. It has nothing to do with government propaganda or anything of that sort.
It's an advertising standards law.
Exactly.
Really.
It's really just simply is if you are The quick summary to that is if you are an individual and you are making a promotional content for a third party, then you have to have this license for transparency. That is it.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the Dubai prosecutor following you to make sure that you're having positive content. Secondly, I'm a person that doesn't have an e-trader license. I don't have an advertiser license, and I think the majority of my stories have been very positive about what's happening here. So I think, but it is a fundamental either misunderstanding or misguidance of the situation. Because yes, it kind of is insane if you take a back step and think about that. There's been over 1,000 missiles, cruise missiles, and drones that have been shot over into the UAE, and yet most people are here. People are going about their day and their business with a degree of alertness, with a degree of worry, obviously. But there isn't this wide panic, and businesses are, for the most part, operating as normal, and people seem to be going ahead with their business plans that they've already drawn up. When you're thinking about a corporate setup, that doesn't happen overnight. So, I mean, people aren't saying, oh, let's hold off on that. They're still continuing with it. And I think that really shows the trust in this place, but also I think it goes a bit like COVID, how this place handled COVID, how the government handled it, how the transparency handled it, that people felt safe, and they felt safe not just in their physical well-being, but in their investments. And that's continuing. So, I don't know what else to say about it, frankly. But
there is a great deal of confidence. The great irony as well is that COVID has become a test case in some way, hasn't it, for what we're seeing now. And the experience of COVID has, unfortunately, fortunately, to be fair, it's become a positive experience in terms of what we learn and can apply to the situation now.
Absolutely. I mean, look, I think COVID was a really interesting test case, as you say, because COVID affected every single corner of the earth, right? And I think for many of us, I have yet to meet somebody try to defend how a place like the UK or the US handled COVID versus here, right? And those of us that traveled around that time saw the differences between living in Dubai versus being in the UK versus being in the US, France, etc. So the situation that we're currently facing is obviously very different than that, but in the same way, it does require a unified government action, unified transparency, and those two things lead to resident and citizen confidence.
Yeah, no, exactly right. And tell you what, we're a little bit over time, but hey, it's fine. Back to the public safety law.
About that.
Let's just look ahead to a few years. How do you, just to finish off, how do you see this law strengthening Dubai's reputation, if you like? Because it goes a great deal to reputation, public safety, clearly, but as a safe place to live, as a safe place to work, to host events, particularly with the backdrop that we have now in the region, these escalating tensions, there's a feeling in the air, of course there is, at a time like now, but this law, how do you see it strengthening?
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's quite interesting because I think, even putting aside what has been happening over the past week, what this law will do, because Dubai especially has been attracting a lot of international conferences, a lot of international sporting events. So they're hosting a lot of that. There is a very, very thriving tourism sector here. And that's all just for the sort of the people that don't live here, for non-residents and for locals. And then you take that into the local population of, can I ensure that my business is safe? Can I ensure my employees are safe? Can I ensure that I and my family are safe? And if you've ticked off all of those boxes, then what more do you want, right? In terms of if you are a business owner of whatever business it is, you know that even if the business that you are running is not open to the public. So a law firm, for example, we're not having huge crowds into our office. But if I know that my office building is safe and secure, if I know that everything is working in it and everything is coded, that's a level of trust that I don't need to have a think about. Well, if there's an earthquake, because this place is prone to earthquakes, if there's a fire, if there's an imminent attack from a neighbor, that all these things are safe. It also attracts your tourists to all the fine hotels and resorts that we have here. It attracts your sporting events that you can go watch a basketball game, a golf tournament, whatever it is, and have that safety in the back of your mind, knowing that things are taken care of, and if there is an event, it's going to be taken care of. So, look, I mean, not all things are prevented or can be prevented, but it is having those mechanisms in place that if there is an issue, it's going to be handled well, which is exactly what we're seeing here, right? So, I mean, even if we look at the context of what's been happening over the past week, it was not within anybody's control in the UAE that we were going to have missiles and drones lodged at us. But there was foreseeability significantly well in the past to have defense mechanisms that were in place, people trained for it, infrastructure in place to be able to deal with it. And it has been dealt with it. So, it's being able to prevent issues from happening in the first place, but if they do arise, we have mechanisms in place to deal with them.
We've been talking about the new public safety law. It's been issued by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, and it sets stricter standards for venues, buildings, products, and public spaces. Takes effect in June. That's the fine print for today, our legal discussion here at Mira Business FM. Raymond Kiswani is a partner at Davidson & Co. Thanks for your time.
Thanks very much.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
It's Mira Business FM.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.